Following a weekend of mass panic buying, an Iceland store in West Belfast, Northern Ireland, have announced that every morning between 8 and 9 a.m, they will only allow elderly customers to enter the store so that they can make the purchases they need during the pandemic.
Should be across the country.
Brilliant idea. Roll it out across the country. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Makes perfect sense. Anyone vulnerable and elderly.
Yeah.
I think it's a great idea.
Here in the UK, one couple are ensuring that those most in need aren't having to live without. Asiyah and Jawed Javed have owned and worked in their Cornershop in Falkirk, Scotland for nearly 3 years, and they've been building up their supplies of things like hand wash and sanitizer, not for themselves, but to hand out to the elderly in their community.
Well, they join us now from their Cornershop in Falkirk. Good morning to both of you, and thank you for joining us. So it was around about February time that you thought, OK, well, let's start increasing our supplies of this. What made you do it in the first place?
We started to stockpile some when we heard about the coronavirus, because the hand wash is very important to prevent coronavirus.
It's shown remarkable foresight. I mean, you really did think ahead there. How much did you buy?
We spent over £4,000 to buy all the stock.
Wow, I mean, that's an incredible amount. And it was last week, wasn't it, that you went shopping and you bumped into an elderly lady who was quite distressed because when she went to the shelves, there was nothing there. There wasn't the cleaning products she needed, the hand sanitizer that she wanted.
Yes, it was an elderly woman outside the supermarket. She was on a wheelchair. She was really upset. I asked her what's wrong with her, and she says that I've been coming in to the supermarkets to trying to get hand wash, but I can't get it every time I come in. And it's the elderly that's been getting more affected by coronavirus.
Yeah.
Well, what you're doing...
So I felt bad for her.
Yeah, absolutely. What you're doing is you're putting together little packs and you're giving them away for free.
Yes, these packs for free.
So what have you got?
So
What's
the hand wash and...
It's hand wash, wipes and face mask.
face mask.
Amazing, well done. And of course, you know, so many people have sort of applauded you for doing this and saying what an amazing thing to do, well done. But then you've also had those people saying, hang on a minute, you're missing a trick here. You could be making a fortune for all of this, as we've seen shops up and down the country that have sort of bumped up their prices slightly. What stopped you from doing that?
We will have other opportunities to earn money. This is a virus. We want to help people, not to earn money at this time.
Yeah.
Well, we think
So
you're amazing.
We can earn money any time.
Yeah.
Well done, both of you.
The people in
Great
Falkirk
example.
are very, very lucky.
Yes.
And it's a great effort. Thank you, guys. Thanks for talking to us.
Now, as the number of UK coronavirus cases continues to rise, Health Secretary Matt Hancock has said that in the coming weeks, every Briton over the age of 70 will be told to self-isolate at home for an extended period of time.
Well, some people have already made the decision to take this step. And at 79 years old, Dame Esther Rantzen has isolated herself in her home. She joins us live from there now. Morning, Esther.
Good morning.
Thank you for talking to us. You're quite ahead of the curve here. You've done this voluntarily. Why?
Well, I should be on a cruise right now, but actually what happened was I decided that it would be inappropriate to find myself locked away from my family and my friends and indeed my work colleagues if something happened to the cruise ships. It was going to be a fundraiser for the Silver Line Helpline. But instead, I found myself in Britain with quite an empty diary. And I thought to myself, the sensible thing is not to go out. So I stopped the visits that I was due to have. I've cancelled the work obligations that I had. I shall be joining the Silver Line board meetings and Childline board meetings by phone, because I just think it's more sensible.
And so, were you prepared? Did you stockpile stuff? Have you got cupboards full of things to see you through?
No, I've made a dawn raid on our local grocer shop, supermarket, but only bought what I will actually eat for the next 2 weeks. The shelves were, as you say, empty of loo paper. Why is it that we've got this national obsession for saving loo paper? Are people creating palaces of toilet rolls where they live?
Which is extraordinary, because it's manufactured in this country and there is no shortage of it, other than the fact that people have bought what's in the supermarkets. You know, there's loads and loads still on the way. However, I mean, you've got to sit there. Are you on your own?
No, I've got my daughter with me because she has health problems. She has ME. So she and I are in sort of not lockdown, but isolation. But I bring you good news because I'm hearing from Age UK that they are putting together food parcels for older people that haven't got enough money to be able to stockpile and are nervous about going shopping. They're creating online music clubs, online book clubs. One of our Silver Line volunteers sent me an email saying that she was actually doing a little extra shopping because she has a neighbour she visits. She's worried that they won't be able to afford an extra tin of beans or a tin of soup, and she calls it silver shopping. And it may be something that other people are replicating around the country. I think we are getting that Second World War feeling that some of us can just about remember of pulling together.
And do you feel, because now you're at home and obviously you've got your daughter there for company, but you feel like on TV you'd like to see some slightly more upbeat things, people talking about other things other than Corona?
I really do. I want them to bring back the great comedies. I mean, stop making us feel so gloomy. You're doing your bit. You're keeping our spirits up. And my friends are having great fun, for example, writing their life story, the thing that they always said they'd do but never had time. Look at this mess behind me that I'm going to spend some time decluttering. I think this is a time when we can concentrate on the things we enjoy, the comedies, the music. I've also had an idea, Phil and Holly, which is we've got a great British product called Gareth Malone. And here we are, our isolated people on Skype. Why doesn't he create a choir out of all of us to sing We'll Meet Again?
That's a good idea.
That's a great idea.
That's a good idea. Yeah, there you go.
You should start it. Get going. That'll give you something to do.
Yeah, thank you. You, Gareth, and the nation, I think. We could all do it and maybe create a record and sell it in aid of
toilet roll.
Older...
Thank you, Esther.
Thank you.
Thank
you
you
stay
very
well.
much
Look after
indeed.
yourself.
More elderly citizens will probably soon be forced to self-isolate. We're joined in the studio now by Dr. Sara and Professor Paul Hunter, who is an expert in infectious diseases. I suppose, really, that this was inevitable, wasn't it? That the most vulnerable in society were eventually going to be asked to look after themselves.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, this was always going to be the case. If you can't control the outbreak in any other way, then what you have to do to reduce the deaths is to actually try and stop the infection getting to the most vulnerable, which is particularly people over 70 and with other diseases.
And so, Sara, will this help? I mean, will this protect the over 70s?
We know that the main way of spreading this is through respiratory droplets and through contact with our hands, so our nose, mouth and eyes. So by isolating those more vulnerable people, we're trying to limit that kind of contact, and so it certainly will.
Well, the numbers that were given are sort of up to 4 months. So how... I would have thought Esther's lucky she's got a daughter there. There are many people who don't live in a big grand house and who won't have someone there. 4 months in isolation is damaging for your mental health.
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, there's evidence that if you're starting to suffer dementia and you go into isolation, your mental capability decreases more rapidly than if you're mixing socially.
What do you do then?
Well, I mean, that story that we heard about the shopkeeper is good news. My own village, where I live in Cheshire, the parish council has organised a hotline, so any elderly person who can't get to the shop or needs to get their meds can phone up by 10 o'clock and they'll deliver it during that day. So, you know, people are responding.
Human nature.
Absolutely.
Humankind.
People, you know, and this is how we're going to get through it, by local communities coming together and thinking about how they can help their most vulnerable residents.
I guess the worry is that you want to help, but what you also worry by visiting, you're part of the problem. So do you visit? Do you not visit? What should you do?
I think self-isolation doesn't mean social isolation. It doesn't mean that you can't, you know, go to your relative's front door and say hello and knock on the doorbell and give them parcels and have that kind of interaction. It just means that, you know, ideally we want you to be 2 metre distance from them, try and, you know, avoid coughing on them, touching things, hugging them, and if you are unwell, don't go near
Really
them.
do stay away.
Yeah.
As far as this is rolling very quickly now, and the news this morning, the outbreak could last 12 months, see 7.9 million people hospitalised, according to a leaked public health England briefing document. Number 10 is going to hold the first daily televised press conference after the PM received he was accused of a lack of transparency in the battle against coronavirus. Travel company TUI cancelled the vast majority of its holidays. EasyJet has undertaken further significant cancellations. IAG, British Airways will cut 3/4 of their flights in April and May. All of those things, that's just this morning. And so it's difficult to reassure people. And I know that it's something that you want to do. When you start reading the news, it's everywhere. It actually is scary to read.
It does sound all very scary, and I understand that, but we also have to remember that for the vast majority of people, it will be a mild illness. They will just have, you know, a slight cough, maybe a bit of a fever. It will go away in a few days, and they will be fine. All of this kind of fear is in order to try and protect the vulnerable and the elderly. But for the vast majority, we are all going to be okay.
The other thing, obviously, a lot of parents really concerned about sending their children to school. I think everybody was hoping that the government might step in so it takes the decision out of your hands as a parent. However, the schools remain open presently. Well, I mean, would you like to see the schools shut?
Yeah, it is difficult because certainly if you close the schools, you're taking further people out of the workplace, and particularly healthcare workers who might actually no longer be able to work in hospitals because they have to childcare. I think we are probably out on a limb in this country in not closing schools, and I suspect that at some time in the relatively near future that might actually be part of what we do, because everybody else in Europe and in North America
by keeping them open. What risks are we running?
Well, we do know that children spread infections really, really effectively. And if you're a parent, you know that when the summer ends, your children go back to school, you get everything. You get sore throats, you get colds, etc. So we do know infections can spread. How infectious a child is, because children don't seem to get that ill, if at all, with this infection. So how infectious a non-ill child is to other people is not clear. But I think we need to assume that they are. So I think we will be closing schools in the
How much have we learnt about it now? Do we know any more about it than we did when this first started in China? Do we know how long are we infectious for after we've had it?
Right, well, we are most infectious over the first 2 days after we become ill, and that's actually different to what we thought, because with SARS you were infectious about a week to 10 days after you became ill. So the concept with SARS was get people into hospital, isolate them, and there won't be anything to worry about. And in fact, it died away around about July, August. With this, people are often more infectious very early on when they might not actually fully realise they're properly ill. And so that's the problem. I think by 7 days, you are probably no longer infectious. Some people can shed the virus a bit longer, but whether that is actually a risk in the grand scheme of things is doubtful.
And of course, at the moment, testing is not sort of spread out that much. There's only a few people who've got actually confirmed cases of coronavirus, as we heard this morning. They suspect a lot more. For somebody who's got all of those symptoms, do they just go, well, I've got it, or do they have to wait to be tested?
So at the moment, the guidelines are if you have any of those symptoms, you stay at home, you self-isolate, you only be tested for it if you are admitted into hospital, and that's in order to protect everyone else in the hospital.
We're not testing generally anymore.
No, we're not.
Because it's being passed person to person now in the street, I'm assuming, and the cases are too great.
Well, yes. I mean, it must be said that not everybody agrees with that policy, and a number of people in the last 24 hours have come out, people who, in public health and epidemiologists saying, actually, this is a mistake, that we should be testing more widely.
Well, especially for health professionals that are having to isolate and they need to be getting back to work because they might just have a cold.
Yes.
What about, it was controversial over the weekend, and we heard for the first time herd immunity.
Of course, yes.
And so your thoughts on that?
Well, I would say I've been interested in herd immunity most of my professional career and how it influences the spread of infectious diseases. I think it was a mistake to raise this as an issue. I think herd immunity will come into play as we get over maybe about half the population up to about 2/3 of the population. The problem with that is that if you haven't got vaccine, what you are saying is that you're going to let the infection run wild until you get to the point where it dies out naturally. Now, I'm absolutely sure that the senior scientist didn't actually mean that when he raised the issue, but the problem is that that has been interpreted as the government is saying that it should run while until we have this herd immunity. And I don't think that should be an appropriate policy.
How long do you think before life can begin to get back to some sort of normality?
Well, we're not totally sure how long this will last. We saw today that that in that leaked document that the Department of Health is now saying that it will last at least a year. And I've been saying this, I think I said this when I came on to your show a few weeks ago, that it would almost certainly continue. I don't think it will continue at such the same level. I think probably during the summer it might sort of dip a bit, but then come back in winter. We don't know for certain, because although this is the first year, so we haven't seen a summer yet. But most similarly spread diseases tend to dip a bit in the summer anyway. So I expect that, and then another peak in the winter. But I don't think the peak next winter, if that is what happens, will be as bad. And I don't think necessarily people will get as sick in future years as they will be in this year.
And the simple thing is, as we've been saying all the way through, wash your hands, don't touch your face.
Yeah, wash your hands, don't touch your face, stay at home if you're not well for a week. Speak to your doctor if it's not improving after a week, or if in that time you develop shortness of breath or you're feeling well. But please just call, do not turn up at your doctor's office.
Thank you very much. Thank you.